Here are some of my favorite underrated office romances. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite underrated office romances. Now I've done a video before where I talked about enemies to lovers office romances, which is also one of my favorite tropes and also in taking place in one of my favorite settings. But I just love the office space setting for a romance, mostly because they are technically stuck together in close proximity since they have to work with each other and also work in the same office or building. So that's why I always like office romances, mostly because they have to try to keep it professional or else they're going to lose their jobs. And I just want to see like how sticky and tricky the situations the authors put these two characters in. Now for these office romances, I don't think a lot of people actually know or have read these ones because they are published from lesser known publishers, and also these titles are just from smaller authors in general. So hopefully you guys can add some books to your TBR for 2021 and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So let's get started. So for the first office romance that I have for you is a very fun one. This one's called The Wrong Kind of Compatible by Katie Scott. And now this one I've read a couple years back ago, but I just remember blowing right through it because I just loved it so much and I read it in one sitting. This one is about a girl named Casey, and Casey is very great with computers. She is a woman in STEM and she just loves coding and she just understands the computer more than humans sometimes. So when the company that she works for introduces her to a new colleague, she is taken aback because of how good looking her colleague is, and the colleague just so happens to be named Drew, and Drew is actually our main hero in our story. So Drew actually comes from a different background than Casey. Drew is actually an undercover FBI agent and he's sent by the agency to go investigate Casey's company that she works for. What happens when they are close together, working on projects together and actually getting to know each other, but also Drew knowing that Casey could be the #1 suspect to the crimes that he's investigating. So now things get a little bit tricky as they play this kind of cat and mouse game and they're trying to discover if Casey is actually doing illegal crimes or is it someone else. So this was such a fun story to read. It was very emotional a lot of the times too as well, when Casey and Drew were fighting against each other and when they had their own emotional things that were going on with their lives and also in their background. I truly enjoyed the story and I really liked how it all unfolded in the end as well. So if you're looking for a romance that has a little bit of action in it and if you like smart guys, then definitely check this one out. Now the next book that I want to recommend to you is actually book number 2 in the series that I just recommended. This one, the series is actually called Love Undercover and it's from Katie Scott and it follows FBI agents. Now this one is called The Attraction Equation and this follows a character named Max, and Max is an FBI agent and he's not looking forward to the holidays because of his meddling family and especially his mom always pressuring him to go find a girlfriend. So what he really needs is a fake date so that everybody can get off his back and that he can enjoy the holidays peacefully afterwards. So what happens when he actually finds someone living in his building trying to sneak in a pet when there's a strict no pet policy? Well, he finds just the right thing to do, which is forcing the girl who is sneaking the pet into the house to be his fake girlfriend so that they can have kind of like a fake relationship and a fake dating trope. And our main female heroine is Gina, and Gina is just trying to make her nephew have the best holidays ever by just bringing him a dog. So the last thing she expected was to go to dinner with this really handsome guy named Max and actually try to learn more about his family and also learning more about his special occupation. So with this series, I absolutely gobbled up the 2 books in like practically like maybe one sitting. I really love this series so much. So the next book that I want to recommend to you is actually a part of another series called Bachelors in Suits series by Robin Neely, and this book is called Falling for Mr. Wright, and this is actually book number 1 in the series. This book follows a character named Sarah, and Sarah is actually in love with her boss and she wants to have her boss fall back in love with her, but she knows that she needs a lot of help, so she decides to ask her office buddy / office best friend named Ryan, and Ryan is a engineer in the company and he is also the CEO's best friend, so he agrees to help Sarah in making sure that she's attractive enough and that she is in the right places at the right time so that she can catch her boss's attention and everything like that. This one was very fun and very flirty, especially because we know that Ryan really likes Sarah and Ryan is always kind of pining over Sarah but also trying to be a good friend by making sure that Sarah is properly set up for the CEO. But it's also painful to watch, especially because Ryan likes her but she likes the CEO, which is also his best friend. So there's this love triangle situation going on. And it's only a matter of time before Sarah realizes that the person that she wants to fall in love with is probably not the CEO and it's probably someone else. So the next book that I want to recommend to you is actually a novella, and this one is from one of my favorite novella authors out there, but I haven't read her books in a long time, mostly because I've been putting her off and I really don't know why, because she's putting out a lot of novellas each year. But her name is Penny Wilder and this book is called Filthy Boss. This one is about a office executive assistant to boss relationship. This one is about a girl named Alyssa, and Alyssa just started her new job at this really big company as an executive assistant to a CEO who's been known to be kind of like a man whore, and he tends to get a lot of girls because he's very good looking, he's very rich, and he's also very smart. So this novella is basically a book about how the CEO is just going to try to seduce the executive assistant, and the executive assistant kind of realizing that she's doomed for it and that she's meant to fall in love with our CEO. So the next book that I want to recommend to you is actually another novella. This one is called Stubborn Hearts by Melanie Monkton, and now this one is one of my favorites because our main character named David is a very studious and kind of a grumpy character where he's very cold and he's very focused on his work and he doesn't need any distractions in the office place. He's also described to be as a man wearing thick framed glasses and very nice tailored suits. So when I was reading this book, I automatically thought of like Henry Cavill and Superman and Clark Kent vibes, which that's like one of the things that I absolutely love and adore. So this is what happens when David is getting a new assistant, and our new assistant is actually our main female heroine named Claire. And basically David doesn't like Claire because they kind of had bad first impressions of each other. Claire thinks that David is a very arrogant person, and David thinks that Claire is a stuck-up brat. So this is kind of the story of what happens when they're stuck together in close proximity in the office. They're trying to fight for their attraction to each other, and they don't want anything to happen because they want to keep everything professional. But then, you know, one night happens and then suddenly they can't get enough of each other. So if you guys are looking for a romance featuring a character who is wearing dark frame glasses and that reminds me of Clark Kent, definitely check this one out too as well. So the last novella that I want to recommend to you is one that I think a lot of people have read already, mostly because it has a lot of ratings on Goodreads. It has 16,000 ratings so far, and this book is called Naughty Boss by Whitney G. Now this book is actually another novella, but it's a little bit longer. It's around 121 pages, so you're still gonna get a very full-length story with a beginning, middle, and end. Now this one follows a character named Maya, and Maya basically is a very underappreciated executive assistant that is being tormented by her boss because her boss is very arrogant and very demanding of her and really just wants her to do a lot of things for him that may seem a little bit unreasonable. Now Maya just really wants to save up enough money and quit her job and just be on and gone with her life because she doesn't want to be a part of her boss's life anymore. Or so we thought, until Mia decides to actually send an email featuring like a lot of mean things said about her boss, but also talking about how handsome he is and how good looking he is, and basically how she always had fantasies about him. And this email is accidentally sent not to her best friend, who she really intended it to send it to, but to the boss himself. Now Michael is kind of floored by the idea because he never suspected Maya to have so many fantasies about him, and he's even more excited to try to see if he can act it out. So I really like this emotional romance too as well. I felt like there was like a lot of things that happened, but it made sense, and sometimes the timing was a little bit off, but I still really enjoyed it. So this novella is something you can definitely gobble up in one sitting and read late at night when you're bored. But anyways, that is it for all the office romances that have a special place in my heart that I don't think a lot of people have read, mostly because they are from smaller authors. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have your favorite office romance books too as well, definitely leave a comment down below so that I can add it to my TBR. But until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.